TJ Combo, Balrog, DJ, and Heavy D. You see, when you're building a successful fighting game franchise, there are several rules that must be in place when it comes to making your game well known. But of those rules, I think that one key to success is often ignored or not mentioned. It's the idea that each character needs to be iconic. They each need to be someone who can be referred to in a vague way and still be instantly recognizable. You see, in Tekken, King is the wrestler. In Street Fighter, E Honda is the fat one. And in Mortal Kombat, Jax is the, he's the
black one.
I mean, we could say that he's the one with metal arms, but no, I think he's right. He might be the black one. Well, it's Black History Month, and I think it's a good time to talk about one of my personal favorite black protagonists ever, and I think that Jax deserves it. So, without further ado, get ready for Hero Unlocked. When it comes to fighting games in the 90s, a few titles come to mind immediately. We're talking Killer Instinct, King of Fighters, and of course, Street Fighter. And it was the success of Street Fighter 2 that played a large part in making Mortal Kombat happen. Street Fighter 2's success showed Midway that there was definitely money to be made in the genre. Now, the original Mortal Kombat back in 1992 on the Midway arcade cabinets was put together by a four-man team in the beginning. Ed Boon, John Tobias, John Vogel, and Dan Forden. The character sprites within the game were based on actors who stood in place and posed for the development team. This gave the characters in the game a more realistic appearance. The game consisted of a few palette swaps which helped fill out the roster. They changed the special moves, colors, and stances in order to make them appear more unique. You know, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Reptile. And of course, the most infamous part of the franchise, the fatalities were a number of moves each character could utilize at the end of each match in order to kill the enemy player in a fantastic and jaw-dropping way. The gratuitous violence brought the franchise directly into headlines. I mean, it was so bad that the home versions had to have violence censored. Now, the Genesis had a code that could be inputted into the game in order to turn the violence back on, while the SNES version palette swapped the blood for sweat and made fatalities a bit more child-friendly. The game was also ported to the Game Boy, but we don't talk about that version. And most of us know how this game, along with Night Trap and Doom, all influenced the creation of the ESRB, an organization established in order to look out for the well-being of the people consuming video game products, which is extremely ironic because now I think they work more for the industry at large and less with. It's not a good look. But damn! You came here to hear about Jax, right? Well, Jax wasn't even around until 1993 in Mortal Kombat 2. Much like Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat 2 really took things to the next level. We're talking new characters, multiple fatalities per character, and non-violent finishers called babalities and friendships. Now armed with a much better camera, Mortal Kombat 2 now sported even better looking sprites. Naturally, Jax made his return in Mortal Kombat 3, now with metal arms. But we'll get to that a little bit later. Just know that he has those now. With the exception of Deception, Jax has reappeared in every title, so I guess we can skip over a few.
Yeah, especially the one where they fight Batman.
They did what now? Okay, so apparently in 2008 there was this game called Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe. It was, in a very strange way, Midway's Mortal Kombat swan song. In 2009 they declared bankruptcy and sold the rights to Mortal Kombat to Warner Brothers. And whether they deny it or not, I really do think this game had a lot to do with the Injustice games getting made. It definitely was no Marvel vs. Capcom, but it was most definitely a worthwhile try. It was not a full Mortal Kombat game, especially in North America. You see, certain characters weren't even allowed to die, at least on screen. After a franchise reboot in Mortal Kombat 2011, or is it just Mortal Kombat? I know it's not Mortal Kombat 9. I mean, I technically think it is, but I don't know. I don't freaking know. Anyway, after that Mortal Kombat came Mortal Kombat X in 2015. This Mortal Kombat was the first on the new generation of consoles, the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. It did come to PC, but once again, we don't talk about that one. Needless to say, it didn't go over the best. The game overall was a huge success and even continued the trend of bringing guest characters from horror franchises like Jason Voorhees, Predator, and Leatherface. But even more important than the inclusion of those characters was the inclusion of longtime characters' children. This effectively creates a new generation of fighters for the franchise, Jax's own daughter Jackie being just one. On a more Jax-specific note, he was in some way, shape, or form intended to be in the first game, but he was eventually replaced by Sonya in favor of giving the game a female character. Jax was originally played by John Parrish and was supposed to be a kickboxer, but after realizing that Street Fighter had a character that looked a lot like their concept, they scrapped it. And as a side note, have you noticed that most of the token black characters within these games are either boxers or kickboxers? Like, what is that? Like, Street Fighter had both. Like, one was a boxer and one was a kickboxer. Why? Either way, there was obviously some confusion when the third game came around, but I think it's important to help distinguish the character. Plus, the purple pants didn't hurt. Those look kind of flat.
Okay, so the development is cool and all, But what about the Lord?
Jax and Briggs, aka Jax, much like many characters within the canon, is vital to the overarching themes within the story. Jax's mission in Mortal Kombat 2 was to find his partner Lieutenant Sonya Blade. Her franchise rival, Kano, the leader of the crime syndicate named the Black Dragon, was her target on her trip to Outworld. Then she went missing. Simple enough, right? Okay, so he just has to find her. Well, in Mortal Kombat 3, Earthrealm is attacked by Shao Kahn. Raiden then puts together a team of fighters in order to battle him. Jax, in order to tackle the new threat, gets like metal arm implants. And after his ending in arcade mode, we find out that Jax and Sonya start an organization intent on discovering and mapping Outworld. The organization learns how to create portals using science as opposed to magic, which are usually used. And that's about it. You have to remember that these are the ends to each character's arcade mode, and depending on the character that you choose, it's going to be canon or not. You usually have to wait until the next game releases to find out which endings were canon. MK4's story is the most infamous of the franchise for one thing and one thing only. And no, it's not the jump to 3D models, which it should be. It's Jax's character ending. You see, there is this elder god named Shinnok. Shinnok was imprisoned in Netherrealm for committing crimes against the other gods. While within the story, Jax and Sonya are on a quest to further dismantle the Black Dragon. The two capture a member of the group called Jarek. However, he teams up with them in order to stop Shinnok from taking over Earthrealm. While Shinnok is defeated and Sonya tried to put Jarek back under arrest, and he throws her off a cliff. And then Jax performs what can only be described as one of the most iconic lines in all of Mortal Kombat history. Take a listen.
Arrest me! Wait! This is brutality! You can't do it! Wrong, Jarek. This is not a brutality. This is a fatality.
Fast forward to the 2011 reboot, and we're shown what happened to Jax in the first game. Sonya's motivation for participating in the Mortal Kombat tournament was to actually rescue the imprisoned Jax in order to save his life. The most impressive part of this reboot has to be the retcon about Jax's arms, however. See, it now wasn't his choice to have them outfitted. He has his biological arms destroyed by Ermac. The reason I like this version a lot better is that it gives the two characters a history. This leaves Kano to Sonya as her rival and makes Jax a much more interesting character, especially when it comes to motivation. While by the end of that title, Jax is fighting some screaming chick who drives her stiletto into his neck and kills him. The evil sorcerer Quan Chi brought Jax back to life as a servant for him. Well, in Mortal Kombat X, Jax, as well as other resurrected characters from the franchise, are under the control of Quan Chi, so Raiden and gang see an end to Jax's imprisonment. However, the time under Quan Chi's servitude really messed with Jax and caused him to retire and, of all things, become a farmer. In his retirement, Jax gets married and has a daughter by the name of Jackie. Jackie essentially takes Jax's place as an agent in Special Forces. Her squad is led by Cassie Cage. Cassie is the daughter of Sonya Blade and Johnny Cage, the series' token jackass. I'm actually kidding. Johnny Cage is actually like my favorite character in all of Mortal Kombat, but that's a story for another day. Speaking of which, it was Johnny who came to Jax in the first place to ask him to come back and fight. Jax then gets over his trauma, because protagonism, and captures Quan Chi and brings him to Earthrealm. And then decapitation occurs. But I mean, it's Mortal Kombat, so duh. I chose this character and topic because it's extremely important to talk about how progress begins. Tokens were like a huge thing in fighting games. Whether it's a token race, gender, or whatever, they've all existed within the genre. And while it can be easy to be unnerved by this prospect, we have to realize that most of the popular ethnic characters in video games began as tokens. It was highly unusual to have widespread representation. This was simply a way of the times. This doesn't excuse it, however, it's just an explanation. We still see this behavior in many forms of entertainment and it isn't quite done yet in the gaming space. I mean, if I had a dime for every sitcom with a black sidekick, I'd have about like $45. But we also have to look at the other side of the coin, and what cannot be denied is how far we've come overall. The idea that we have characters like Marcus Holloway and Clementine as leads means more than some people will ever know. It's more than just having diversity in a character select screen in order to seem with the times. It's the feeling of being able to dress up on Halloween as someone who looks remotely like you. It's about seeing someone who has a similar background lead a team and not just be there for comic relief. You see, there's power to fantasy. And while these characters like Jax may get flack from time to time, I know that progress has to start from somewhere. And to be honest, this wasn't a bad start. Thanks for watching. Stay perfect, and have a happy Black History Month.
Hey guys, thanks for watching Hero Unlocked. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe to Delapo's YouTube page, Potentially Perfect. You can catch me every Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time on the Iron Lords podcast on YouTube. You can also catch me on Twitter, LordsObILP, and on PSN and Xbox Live at BXOb.